I come to Hadrian's Wall country in the Northumberland National Park a lot. Happily, I live 20, 30, 40 minutes at most from what I think are the best stretches, which is great for me, obviously. Not so much for you if you don't live in the area. But today I'm going to talk about 5 of my favourite locations on Hadrian's Wall, why I like them, when the best time of day is to visit them, and the best time of year, which isn't necessarily a day like today. We're in late summer now, so it's not ideal for many things. But I've got plenty of examples from previous trips to show you. And yes, I have recently seen David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia. Why do you ask? Anyway, I'm going to head to my first location and we'll get going. Over the course of the afternoon, we're going to be heading from east to west. This is the most easterly spot today, and this is Teppermore, or as it's more commonly known, Limestone Corner, which is weird. And it's weird because the boulders here aren't limestone, they're actually dolerite, which is a hard igneous rock and which form part of the Windsill Formation, of which more later. They do, however, form part of the vallum here, and the vallum was a defensive ditch dug by the Romans. So I'm going to find my first shot within the ditch, within the vallum. There's some nice backlighting behind me, so that could be interesting. Then I'm going to go up above the ditch and look north towards the Chawfields and see if I can find a shot using the boulders as a foreground. So all I've got to do now is remember where I put my camera bag, and I'll get set up. This is my first shot setup, and it's backlit, and that's helping to define the shape of those boulders, and it's making the grasses that are growing out of the boulders just glow, which I really like. In terms of composition, I've got the path snaking through towards a tree in the background. Now this location really does need dramatic lighting, and I prefer it autumn, winter, spring, especially towards sunset, when you've got the lower raking light, when the sun's closer to the horizon. And it's great when it's stormy. I really love coming out when it's stormy. And I'll put some pictures I've taken previously during just such conditions. Now, there are clouds passing through, and it's creating some interesting shadows in the background. So I think it's just a case of waiting now for that to happen, so that the foreground is nicely lit. There's some shadow in the background, and that'll give me some visual contrast. So I won't make you hang around. If I do get something interesting, I'll put it on screen right now. Well, I'm at my second location now, which is Steel Rigg. Now I mentioned the Windsill, and that's basically a geological formation made of dolerite, like I say, and that starts in Teesdale and erupts out of the landscape at various points across Teesdale and Northumberland, and eventually peters out towards Holy Island and the Farns. Now the Romans weren't stupid. They built Hadrian's Wall wherever there was a natural barrier, and that includes the Windsill Crags, of which Peel Crag at Steel Rigg is a very fine example. There's a wonderful path which you can take, which is very accessible, so you really have no excuse not to come and have a look at it. So I'm going to go and find a shot, get set up, and I'll explain what I like about this location and when it's at its best. It's really dramatic the way that the Windsill Formation pushes out of the landscape here at Steel Rigg. It's a very popular spot for climbers, and I've just watched some climbers climb it there. Not for me, I must admit. It does undulate. It's almost like a roller coaster, the way it dips and rises as it heads east from here. In the first dip is Castle 39, which is well worth a look. And then you had Sycamore Gap. Now, it's still called Sycamore Gap. It's just lacking the sycamore after 2 lads cut it down a few years ago. I still miss the tree. And I'll put some video footage of the tree from, I think, 2019. It's the only footage I have, sadly. But also I'll put some photos on as well, a little slideshow. But this location is really good in the summertime, first thing in the morning, last thing at night. It's north facing, so when the sun's rising in the morning, in the northeast, it gets lit, and it also gets lit in the evening when the sun's setting in the northwest. In wintertime, the sun's rising behind the crag from where we are at the moment, so that's less ideal. That said, if you get a good sunrise and some nice colour in the sky, it can be quite dramatic with this crag sort of silhouetted. But for me, this is very much detail country and panoramic country. From here, it's a very panoramic formation, so I'm going to shoot a panoramic, I think. I'll do that by shooting lots of individual shots, moving the camera slightly between each shot, and then stitching them later. If it works, I'll put it on screen after this, and then we'll head to the next location. So I'm now at Cawfields, which is my third location, and this was once an active quarry. It closed sometime in the 1950s and has been run since the 1970s by the Northumberland National Park. It was the dolerite that they once quarried here, and it was used for road chippings, and in fact is still used for that purpose. There are quarries elsewhere in the county which are still active and running, which means that wherever you drive in the country, potentially you could be driving on Northumberland, which is a cheery thought. Now there's a crag here which is west facing, so this is a great afternoon location, but the lake in front of the crag is a bit choppy today. The wind is picked up. Ideally, I prefer that when it's mirror calm, because you get wonderful reflections of the crag, so you get wonderful symmetrical compositions. Not today though. So I think I'm going to find a spot a bit further round the crag, try and find a different viewpoint on it rather than shooting from the lake, which is my usual preference. It's always good to do something a bit different, isn't it? This is the shot setup. Now ideally I prefer some more cloud in there, a bit more drama. It's a very bland sky, but hey ho, you get what you're given. I did try a polarizer, but that just looked overcooked. It made the sky just too intense, and that really didn't work, so I've taken that off. But that is allowing me to get a faster shutter speed, which will help me freeze the movement of the grasses in the foreground here, which is good. There's some interesting shadow behind the grasses, and there are patches of purple heather just cascading down from the slope there, which is adding a nice splash of colour. So yeah, I think it looks good. There's a lot of either swifts or swallows, I'm not entirely sure what, flying around as well. I suspect they'll be heading to Africa soon, so this is probably our last hurrah. So I'll get the shot taken, and if it looks presentable, I shall put it on screen after this, followed by a few other shots I've taken from Cawfields on previous occasions. This is my penultimate location. It's Thirlwall Castle, and it postdates the Roman period by quite a large margin. It was built in the 14th century as a family home, but one that was very strong and would keep out all the ne'er-do-wells and scallywags who roamed the county during this period. However, rather cleverly, they did use stone from Hadrian's wall to build the castle, so it's a very early example of recycling. It's great in summertime when you've got the late evening light on it. It's really good during stormy periods when you've got storm clouds behind, and if you're very lucky you've got crows cawing in the background, so it's very atmospheric then. But I don't think I've got time tonight to take any pictures, so I'll put some up that I've taken on previous trips, and we'll head directly to the next location. Number one on my list is Walltown, which has to be my favourite spot on Hadrian's Wall, and I have featured it in other videos before, and I'll put a link to one of those up there somewhere. And I like it because it's relatively remote, which does mean that the wall is reasonably intact here. I mean, it's not perfect, but it does get to quite a height in places. I also like it because in the summertime, when the sun is rising in the northeast and setting over there in the northwest, The north side gets lit, and it's relatively safe to get over to the north side and shoot from there. In the winter time, when the sun rises in the southeast, sets in the southwest, then the south face is lit all day. So it's a good summer, winter location. I'm possibly less keen on autumn and spring, at least at sunrise and sunset, when the sun is rising in the east and setting in the west, because here the wall does run east-west, so you're either shooting in the sun in the morning or shooting into the sun in the evening. So for me, this is more of a summer and winter location. Now, I really don't have that long before sunset, and I can see the sun isn't that far from the horizon. So I'm going to get to the north side, see what I can find there, do a few shots. But again, if I don't find anything or nothing seems to work because of the lighting and the lack of cloud, I'll put stuff that I've shot here previously. We'll get through this. So I'm going to turn you off and go and find a nice spot. So I'm just shooting handheld now, just to save a bit of time, because the sun is rapidly sinking towards the horizon. And I'm using my new, well, say new, it's second-hand, 7 to 14 millimeter lens, which I've mentioned in previous videos that I'm more used to using long lenses, and that's typically what I prefer. So this is quite a novel experiment, and I'll be coming back to it in a later video. But I found some interesting grasses here which are being backlit, and I'm using some trees just to hide the sun's disk so it's not shining directly into the lens. And I think it could work. So I'm going to have to bracket and again possibly shoot HDR just to get the exposure right, because it's very contrasty, which isn't ideal for a Micro Four Thirds camera. That said, with modern noise reduction tools, I'm more than happy to push shadows than I would have been a year or two ago. So yeah, I'm more happy to experiment. So I'm going to get this shot taken. If it works, I'll put it on screen after this. Well, I think I found my shot of the day, a gnarly old tree with some foreground grasses lit by the setting sun. I can't see me getting anything better tonight in the final 10 minutes before the sun finally sets. So I'm going to call it a night. Always leave on a high. That's my policy when it comes to landscape photography. Now, I hope you've liked this video. If you have, please do like it below, and please do post a comment or a question. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to be next week. I shall think of something interesting, possibly my new lens. I might give that a proper whirl, a proper test, and see what I think of that. So in the meantime though, hope you have a very pleasant week, and I'll see you then.